We're live. Surprise. Surprise, everybody. David, yes, sir. Welcome to the party, sir. Milan Weekly Podcast, midweek edition special. We're going to give everybody a couple of minutes. Juan, good morning from San Diego. Yes, sir. Welcome, Juan. I'm having a great day. And I have a fantastic guest for you guys tonight. Fantastic. Youssef. Thank you, Youssef. Thank you. Yes, I couldn't make it yesterday to the podcast. Vinny went rogue. Calcara, another Milan club, Montreal at mid. Right in time for lunch, for sure. Guys, we're going to get started soon. Oh, we even have the Presidente on. Grande Presidente is making his presence because he knows that the guest, they require, I'm not going to say he or she, but they require the utmost attention and gratitude for today. We're going to get it started, guys. Cari amici sportivi, welcome to a special midweek edition of Milan Weekly Podcast. I am Steve, as always, midweek, going down to the fantastic layer and sound studio here I have in my home that Presidente kindly paid for, and gonna bring out a fantastic guest today. You know that Milan Weekly Podcast is the English voice of Radio Rossonera, and it's a privilege to bring on Lucia Pirola from Radio Rossonera.
Hi everyone. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you on. How are you today?
I'm fine. I'm struggling with the weather here in Italy. Is so hot, but well, we're good. We're waiting for the women's to start the season, so we're good.
Excellent. How are you? So, very good. For us here, it's hot. I apologize for the beard. This is my COVID beard. I usually look better than this. I'm obviously the best looking of me and Vinny, so don't worry about it. But we're good here in Canada. Lucia, thank you again for having us on. I know you had a long day at Radio Rossonera, and now taking up more of your time. You graciously accepted our invitation, the Presidente's invitation to Milan Weekly Podcast. And guys, it's no secret. We're here. We want to talk about the women's game. We want to talk about AC Milan, the AC Milan Femminile, and talk about what they have in store for the new season. So, Lucia, if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started at Radio Rossonera.
Well, about myself, I am 26-year-old. I started with the Radio Rossonera a couple of years ago. It's the following season would be the third season I follow with the Radio Rossonera. I've always been a Milanista and red and black fan, as well as all you. I started with the Radio Rossonera because I wanted to follow the women's steps. As the Milan Femminile, as we call the team here in Italy, started 2 seasons ago 2 years ago. And I've always been a Rossonera, so I said to myself, I want to follow this team. I want also everybody to know what this team means, what they do. So that's why I crossed the path with Radio Rossonera, and they said, why don't you join us and tell people what the team is doing, and you tell them with us. And I said, yeah, that's right.
That's amazing. That's amazing, Lucia. You know, and it lined up perfectly because we did have the Women's World Cup, and we did have Italy's run in the Women's World Cup. Before we get into Milan, let's talk a little bit about that World Cup. You know, selfishly, of course, Italo Canadese myself, I caught myself as well watching that Women's World Cup and seeing how Italy, not as an underdog, but maybe like a team that was unknown, that stretch. How was it for you being in Milan, covering AC Milan Femminile, watching some of those players that either do play at Milan or later on started to play at Milan? How was that for you?
It was simply amazing. I also went to France for a week to follow the team as the closest possible, and it was simply amazing. The experience in France was beyond any expectation, and you can say that Italy was the underdog. I think we can say it. Italy joined the World Cup for the first time in 20 years. So Italy has been out of the map for like 20 years. Nobody even knew that Italy had a women's team, and
I have to say, I admit I did not know they had a women's team. I'll be very honest with you.
Yeah, they grew very fast in the last 3, 4, 5 years. And the participation with the Women's Cup was like the cherry on the top of these girls who started to play in a very professional way in these late years with the AC Milan, with the Juventus, with the Fiorentina, and all the professional teams.
Lucia, please don't say Juventus on the podcast.
Sorry.
My ears hurt. My ears hurt, okay?
Is it?
I'm joking. Oh, we lost her. We lost Lucia. We're going to send her. We lost Lucia. Device not connected. Anyway, so guys, just to keep the show going while Lucia reconnects, guys, I have to admit, guys, I did not know there was a women's World Cup team, and I was caught by surprise, obviously, because we were not something that we were used to, right? So, and especially like Lucia said, being the underdog, which we're not used to as well. For anybody who is Italian and follows the Azzurri, we usually don't go into a tournament as the underdogs. So that's a bit of something new as well, and it coincided perfectly with women's football and how it started in Serie A and how it went forward like that, right? So I'm gonna just try to email again Lucia. I'm gonna send her the link again. And Lucia's back. We're gonna add
Sorry,
Lucia back.
sorry, my connection is struggling with the weather as well.
Don't
So
worry about it. Don't worry
we're
about it.
doing
We
the best we
continued.
can.
I continued like as if, like as if we were still having the conversation. We always say that we're not professional, and nor do we pretend to be, but we are somewhat professional. So I knew you lost connection. There's no
Yeah,
problem. I was telling everybody that, look, I have to admit, Lucia, I did not know that Italy had the women's national team, right? So
yeah,
getting caught up in that, and like you were explaining the great feeling you had, being able to go to France
yeah,
and continue to follow the team. And you know what? And it ended up being perfect timing with Serie A getting the actual women's team in Serie A. If we could talk a little bit about here in Canada, for women, the avenues of success are very difficult, right?
hmm,
You can play locally, you can play semi-pro, and then your options are really either going to play in the United States for a university, which is very good soccer, but it's very rare that we see someone going overseas. What are the avenues for women's soccer in Europe, right? Because there's multiple leagues.
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that, if you
It's
know.
very different from what you said. It's
Yeah.
happening in Canada. For example, here in Italy, the players are not pro. They are starting to go pro, but they aren't for the moment. It's it's a long journey. They are starting this kind of journey this year, and the FIGC, which is the federation, hopes
Hmm.
that the player will be professional by 2022, so a couple of years more. And for sure, this COVID situation did not help with this kind of thought. But I can't say that women's football is not growing. It's growing very fast, especially in Italy. We were saying that many people did not know that Italy has a women's team, but people doesn't know that AC Milan has a women's team as well, or that there is women's Champions League, for
Yes.
example. Well, there are
Yeah.
these kind of teams and this kind of championships, and they are gaining more interest by people. So more and more people is starting to know women's football, to watch the games, which is a big part of this kind of interest. And I think it's very interesting how, especially in Europe, in Italy, this kind of sport is growing. Italy is moving like slowly, a few steps in order to reach a more competitive championship.
Yeah.
For example, by having some foreign players. For example, AC Milan has. I'm not going to spoil the market, but is trying to bring to Milan some players from all Europe and beyond Europe, which is very, very important for the championship and for a team as well, because they are aiming to the Champions League tournament.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? And I didn't say it in a negative way here. In North America, being involved in local soccer, like myself, Presidente Marcello, and a lot of the fathers there. I have a daughter too, right? So I see that women's soccer here in North America too is picking up, right? Everybody has this misconception of the World Cup. The Women's World Cup it's USA's cup to lose, right? USA is the strongest. Germany strong as well. We've had the Swedish team being strong as well.
Yeah.
Then they had this misconception that the talent dropped off, right? So now we see that, from the World Cup that you had the chance to assist in France, that the level of talent is starting to even out, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's making it more exciting. And if we could talk now, it's funny, it's great that you brought it up about AC Milan and their women's team. And can we talk about and just explain to everybody how the season finished for AC Milan Femminile because of COVID, right? Because I think there's not a lot of people that understand what exactly went on because they had to stop the season.
It's kind of hard to say exactly what happened because I don't even know actually what really happened. The thing is that here in Italy, as you may know, COVID exploded. So the situation went really, really bad and really, really fast. So nobody actually knew what to do in a quickly way. So they stopped the Serie A, the championship, and they say, let's talk about it in 1, 2, or 3 months. And when May came, the federation said, okay, let's start with the boys. So the men championship, the male Serie A went along. They started the championship where they left. But this kind of thing didn't happen with the women's. And that's kind of hard to say why. The situation with the women's team is very different from the male. Not all the teams. I hope I can.
Yes, of course.
Can understand what I'm trying to say. The women's team are very different among the championship. So there's, for example, AC Milan, which has a pro side, let's say this way, which is the male side. And so they have resources, they have every way, and they have money. They have every way to restart the championship. They could afford the safety of the players, and they could afford to let them train, even if there was the quarantine here in Italy. What the difference is that not all the team had this kind of chance.
So not all the teams were equal in terms of the funding that spread to the feminine side to have them participate safely in the continuation of the league, right?
Yes, you're translating in a more English way what I'm saying. But yes, that's the point of the situation. So once they were trying to figure out if it was possible to start again the Serie A, many teams were not able to provide some safe plan to the players. So I think that it was the best way possible was to stop the championship, to say, okay, we did it from September to April or March, and then we think about the next season. It was too difficult to say that AC Milan had to provide the same situation to the players as well as, let's say, Orobica or Bari, which are the, I say, small teams. They had fewer
teams with less financial backing, basically.
Yeah. And also the players said that they did not want to play playouts. Is it right?
Like a playoff system.
Yeah, they said either we all play in order to achieve what we are fighting for, or nobody does. Okay. So either we all restart the season, or nobody does, and that's what actually happened. So we are waiting for the 22nd of April when the new season will start again.
The 22nd of August?
Yeah.
Okay, not April, August.
Oh, I said April. Yeah, August.
Luglio. Agosto.
How April? Yeah, August.
Yeah. And how did they because this is what something that not that it bothered me, but when I was reading up on what Milan, the feminine side, the feminine Milan did, and the Milan femminile, how did they decide la classifica? How did they decide
Final
who was
table, like,
who was gonna progress to Champions League and so on and so forth? And I
that's
know you're
kind of
laughing
funny.
because I got you aggravated now. So this is my goal.
This is kind of funny because that's the main, I don't know how to say, like a joke. AC Milan players took it as a joke, as a funny thing, because once okay, let's say that's a hard one. Once the championship was stopped, AC Milan and the Fiorentina, who were the main team following Juventus, the J1.
The J1, yeah.
They were aiming to the Champions League, and there was just one place for two teams.
Yeah.
Okay. And they were even. They were even points, and one match involving AC Milan and Fiorentina was left to play.
Okay.
And they didn't get the chance to play it.
Oh.
So they were even, and Fiorentina won this kind of match, virtual match, because it never actually happened, because of the goal difference.
Okay. Yeah.
Fiorentina had a better goal difference, which caused the final table. And so Fiorentina was above AC Milan, and AC Milan was left with no place in the Champions League for the second years on a row.
Yeah, in a row.
Because the same thing, let's say the same thing happened last year. Wow. And so that's the second time in a row. And AC Milan did not like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I could imagine not making it to the Champions League, which I'm pretty sure all these women would love to play in the Champions League, representing the colors, the red and black colors. I'm going to ask you a question now. Here, it comes from the YouTube comments there quickly, and it's from. It's from he's a very dear friend of mine. His name is Francis Colagiacomo. He's played soccer as well, and it's an interesting question. He has only one negative thing about him. He's an Interista, but we're gonna let him ask the question. Okay, that's the only thing. So his question is right there as below. So Italy having a lot of traditional football history with the men's game, how was the women's game received by Calcio, the fans, and what are the major challenges they face?
First of all, let me just say I appreciate so much that all around the world it's calcio. It's not like football or soccer. It's calcio. In Italy, it's calcio. Yeah, that's how we call it here. It's a hard one as well, because the fans are still having not always a great time with women's football, or the calcio femminile, as we call it. It's still a soft spot for many fans, because many people still think that the purest one is the male football, is the calcio maschile, while the women's football, they say it's not real football. So it's always been Yeah.
I can't believe that we're in the year 2020 and we still have this mindset, right? It's and I'm laughing just because that there's fantastic women athletes. You understand? Like, look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Will I get up in the morning and say, hey, I need to find out what the game, which game, when Calcio Femminile Milan is playing? I'm not gonna tell you the honest truth. I don't know when it is. You understand? Because I don't see it. But if the game is on, I'm going to appreciate it for what it is. Look, to be very honest with you, I'd rather watch, and I'm not saying this here, but I'd rather watch that women's game where I can see Milan play against someone else than watching the MLS. And I'll be very, very, very candid with you. I just don't appreciate the MLS game. But in the women's game, it's a different style. You see the European in that in the tactics, even on the women's level.
Yeah,
And you have to give it time to evolve. You understand? So I laugh at that when they say that the male is the purest sport. It's
yeah.
like it's
I
gonna
love
it's
to.
gonna end out even out at a certain point. You understand? And we don't. I don't want to, not because you're on, but we want to see we want to see AC Milan do good, no matter if it's women or men, right? We want to see them succeed. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
funny that we still have this mindset, and when we can just separate the two, they're not the same. There's women and there's men, and there's a different game, and appreciate it for what it is, right? So
yeah. That's the thing, and this is the main reason why Italy is struggling to reach some point that other national teams are already on. So let's say France or Sweden, as you said, but Canada as well has started many years ago with supporting women's football and the
yeah.
local football, this kind of stuff. And so they have a national team which is very competitive,
Yeah,
which
I can't
has
believe it. I'm Canadian, and I forgot my own nation, right? And that's a great example to everybody who says that. Like, look at Canada. Our women's team is very strong compared
Mhm.
to our men's team, who has a lot of work to do. Same association, but they're doing something right on the women's side, and on the men's side, we're not doing something right. So
Yeah,
that's a perfect example. Thank you. I can't believe I
yeah.
forgot Canada.
Also, Canada hosted the 2014 World Cup.
Yes, the Women's World Cup, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it was huge, and it was like the first big event I followed by watching it on television, but not as close as I wanted. But it was the first one. Women's
You see,
soccer. Yeah,
women's soccer over
yeah,
MLS any day.
yeah.
And you know what?
I
And
think
I'm going to talk to you about this. I'm going to
yeah.
talk to you about this because it's something that's really, we're going to go away from women's soccer, and then we're going to come back. So
Okay.
an interesting Twitter not debate there, but something that came out from yesterday's game. So Milan's 4-1 victory against Sampdoria. Ibra, at 38 years old, young, has a brace, 2 goals, and an assist. And we have someone that I'm not going to even name. It's just a talking point that interests me. Basically, here in North America, saying, "Oh, a 38-year-old was able to get 2 goals and 1 assist. What does that say about Serie A?" Question mark. Obviously, he's a North American. He's looking at MLS and what Ibra did in MLS, and now coming back to Italy. What does what in Europe, is there a lot of talk of MLS? And I'm not going to go whose league is better. We know that like, you have to be very naive to think that a young league like MLS, and I'm not going against MLS, it's very young.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at Serie A. It's been around for hundreds of years, right? So yes, they've evolved. They slowed down over here. They slowed down in the later parts of the 2020s, but the league and the talent in Serie A is uncomparable right now to what there is in MLS. But in Europe, what's the reaction to MLS? What do people say about MLS?
It's like, I think that the Ibrahimovic situation is the perfect example of this kind of discussion, because it's what you said. The MLS is seen as a lower, let's say, championship, because of the talent and the people who play in this kind of championship. If there were more players, more younger players, let's say, playing in MLS, I think it would be more interesting for the fans. But you had Beckham, you had Ibrahimovic, and
Kaká,
also, yeah, Kaká. We know something about Kaká, and
Divayo,
also,
Nesta, and that's great for the league, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
they went there to grow your game, right? And
Mhm.
of course, let's take away money, right? The Beckhams, the Ibrahimovic, the Kaká, the Divayo, the Nesta. Yes, it was money, and they had to transition away from European soccer back to and try to give some exposure to North American soccer.
Mhm.
That's why they're going there, right? They want the MLS needs to grow because it is a young league. But for
Yeah.
people in North America who don't watch Calcio, it's
Mhm.
it's very naive of them to say that someone at 38 years old like Ibra can come back from MLS, go to a team
Yeah.
like Milan who was struggling and had struggled the first half of the season,
Yeah.
pass a pandemic, and still at 38 years old
Yeah.
contribute intelligently to the game of soccer the way Ibrahimovic has, with his not always goals, not always assists, but the mentality is just basically someone from MLS needs to absorb that, and North American sports has to absorb that and understand that that's the difference between Calcio, EPL, the Spanish Premier League, the Bundesliga, Liga, the Scottish League, and MLS. There's a huge difference, and it's all in mentality. And comments like that, unfortunately, Serie A will never respond to something like that because they just don't. They will never do. If I would be in charge, I would be responding. And like I want to respond now with you, I'm sorry, I'm taking a bit of your time. But it frustrates me because that person gets paid a lot of money to have an opinion,
Mhm.
and when his opinion is not it's not educated by facts and what exactly is happening in culture, that gets me angry, right? And comparing two leagues is childish. You understand? Like, you cannot compare two leagues. They're different. EPL is different from the Spanish league. The Spanish league is different from Serie A. And they're all beautiful in themselves because they're all different brands of soccer. So I just want to get your opinion on that, because as you can see, I'm very angry.
Yeah, it's kind of, if you think about it, it's kind of the same discussion with the women's football and the male football.
Exactly. Yes.
Two different things. You can say, I think I like better this one. Yeah, well, you can say it, but they're not on the same level.
No,
And
exactly.
I also think that MLS has to grow like an identity,
Yes.
an own their own identity with some players, with some kind of players, some kind of let's we say a kind of culture, which
Yes.
has its own structures and the schemes on the pitch, and this kind of stuff is what makes an identity of the team and the championship as well. So it's obviously different than Serie A, but if Ibrahimovic can come back to AC Milan with the kind of mentality and the shape, the physical shape he has, it's
Like
also
me. Like, he's in shape like me.
yeah, of course. It's also because of the experience with the MLS, so nothing to be bothered about.
No, exactly. Let's talk about something. We talked about MLS having an identity, and what what do you think about this? And I talked to this about this subject to a lot of people because I want to have everybody else's opinion, right? So for me here, sitting in North America, I have the luxury of getting the chance to talk to wonderful people like you, who are knowledgeable about the game, and everybody else at the Radio Rossonera, and the wonderful guests we have on. But do you think Serie A is missing the boat? Are they making a mistake by not targeting North America a little bit more strongly than they've had in the past?
Uh, you're talking about the male situation, right?
No, I'm talking male and female, right? Because there's an avenue now, right? So there's an
Mhm.
avenue for one Serie A male, with Serie A already established as what it is as a league, and getting coverage to make people get attracted to Serie A
Mhm.
masculine, the male
Yeah.
side. But there's an avenue also now for the women's side,
Mhm.
and it's not been done yet, right? There's a strong women's game in North America, in the States, with their college and their university. Would it be something, an intelligent project for Serie A, both male and female, to start targeting North America to open up these avenues? Two different avenues. One for Serie A, where they already have established league and can get more and more viewers, and so that my son can grow up and say, I love AC Milan, without me throwing him AC Milan jerseys all the time. And two, for that my daughter, if she decides to play soccer, or my friend's daughter decides to play soccer, there is an avenue for her to say, hey, after I reach this level in women's soccer, maybe Serie A is somewhere where I can go.
Yeah, I think it will be a great project by simply saying that the most football you can watch, the better it is. That's the main reason. I'd like to watch more, for example, women's football from the USA. I'd like to watch it like every day, but it's hard. It's very hard. Here in Italy, it's still hard to watch the women's games. So, yeah, it's even harder for the foreign countries. But I think it would be a great thing to open the barriers, this kind of media barriers, and to get the chance to know the foreign countries, their football, their kind of how they play, how the players are. So this kind of stuff, I think it would be really great.
Yeah, and also even for scouting, right? Like I'm pretty sure AC Milan, the women's team of AC Milan scouts. Okay, obviously funds are differently. It's a little bit different, but there's we've seen in the past networks of scouting, right? Someone from Italy doesn't necessarily need to be here in North America. There just has to be a contact between the two. Opening that to say, hey, we see a little girl here. Or little lady, or a future professional, she has some serious talent. You might want to come and take a look at her, or you might want to invite her to a camp, right? So I'm just thinking of those things to open up more avenues for the women, because that exists on the male side as well, right? They do that.
Yes, yes, of course.
Yeah. So again, of course, I don't know if Marcello told you, but and everybody told you, I love Calcio Mercato. For me, it's my telenovela. It's my C'è posto al sole. Yeah. Sorry?
Not a transfer market.
The transfer market, Calcio Mercato, everything about that. The telenovela that is Calcio Mercato. I love that. I love the different swaps and stuff. How is the Calcio Mercato on the women's side? Is it the same thing? Is it the same drama? Is it the same telenovela? Or is it more straightforward? We're going to take Lady B, and she's going to play in AC Milan. That's it.
It's very different from the male. Yeah, this one as well. It's very different. It's like a telenovela. Yes, it is. I think that, for example, there's this one player I honestly love, which is Daniela Sabatino. It was the former AC Milan captain 2 years ago.
Okay.
But she only stayed for 1 year here in Milan, and she was like the huge Milanista among the women. So she has always supported AC Milan. She grew in a Milanista family, and she got the chance to play for AC Milan women's team. So
that's
it was
amazing.
A dream for her. But she only stayed 1 year, and then she went to another team, which was Sassuolo. Do you know
Sassuolo? Sì.
And then for 1 year last season, and then she changed again the team, and she went to Fiorentina, which is like the best enemy AC Milan has, other than the J1.
The J1, yeah. So another strong team.
So that's kind of a telenovela, if you.
Yeah, bouncing around teams. That's a lot of teams, though. That's very interesting. What about Milan, AC Milan Femminile? Can you talk to us a little bit about their Mercato? Are they looking at certain players? If you can't name the names, it's okay. But if you can, that would be fun, because it was something new for everybody, right?
Yeah, I have studied the new players for like a long time, for a few months, so I know them. AC Milan has for the moment like 6 or 8 new players.
Okay, well,
Okay, I name them. Selena Bab, which is a new goalkeeper, a young goalkeeper. Then 2 defenders, Agard, Laura Agard from France, but she has played in Fiorentina, so she already knows Italy and Serie A. And Giorgia Spinelli, which is an Italian player who is coming back from Reims in France.
okay.
So very international. Then 3 more players, which are Christy Grimshaw, Scotland player, Rask, which is from Denmark, and then the best player Australia had, which is Natasha Dowie. She was the Golden Boot in Australia, so she's like the best player they had in Melbourne Victory. And they are all coming to AC Milan.
For next season.
Yeah.
So we're kind of doing a Mirabelli Fasone style of overhaul here at the women's side. Hopefully better than what happened with Mirabelli and Fasone. That's for sure. I wish them all the best of luck. Do you find that that the women's teams, their players change teams more often?
Yeah. That's for sure, because of the market identity. Let's call it this way.
Yeah.
In the women's calcio, the calcio femminile, because they don't really have the contract the male part has. For example, they have like an agreement, an economic agreement, because they are not pro. So there's no contract. There's this agreement, and the agreement lasts only 1 year.
Okay.
So it's easy for them to change the team every like 1 or 2 seasons.
Okay.
Because they don't have the kind of stability that the male part has. So it's easier to change team very often. And that's what happened with AC Milan, but with other teams as well. So also Fiorentina has changed many players this summer. They have just announced them today, 5 or 6 new players. So it's a lot changing.
Yeah, good. I wanted to talk a little bit about you, Lucia. How did you become an AC Milan fan?
I've always been an AC Milan fan, as we call it, a Rossonera.
Yes.
My parents are AC Milan fan, and also I was born in 1994 when AC Milan was like the cool team.
Yeah.
So I was the cool kid with the AC Milan shirt, jersey on. And I've always been a Milan fan. I grew up with the red and blacks, so it's part of me. It's part of my family.
Yeah, that's amazing, and it's beautiful to see that tradition passed on. And what I'm trying to do to pass it on to my kids, hopefully it's gonna stick, which I'm pretty sure it's gonna stick. But can you tell us the first time you went to San Siro? How did it feel?
It's kind of hard because I was very little. I was very young. I have always played football, women's football, since I was like 6-year-old, something like that. So I remember that once I went with my team when I was like 10 years, and we went with the whole team. We went to San Siro. And once it's the same, whether you have 10 years, you are 24, you are 26, you are 30, it's always the same situation. You step in San Siro and you have like the vastity.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's it's actually beautiful, and you have this great feeling, like goosebumps.
Goosebumps, yeah.
On your arms, and it never changes. Actually, I went 2 weeks ago because of the last game in San Siro, with the journalist, because San Siro is not open to the fans for the moment. And I had like the same feeling I had when I was 10. It's always great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ask you to compare because it's not, again, like we said before, it's two different levels. But how did it feel the first time you saw AC Milan Femminile play?
Yeah, that happened 2 years ago, so it's more fresh.
It's fresh.
It was like a dream for me, actually, because of the women's football is the sport I love above anything else. And to see the players with the red and black shirt and the women's player, not only the male players, was like a dream for me. And actually, it's kind of the same situation again. And every time I get to watch the women's game, they also had this player Sabatino, Daniela Sabatino, who was a crazy AC Milan fan. So it was like, yeah, crazy.
Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Imagine, Lucia, before we started off this podcast, and you asked me, Steve, how long do you think this is going to take? And I said, Lucia, I don't know. We're going to get close to it. We're going to get close to an hour. I talk a lot. And look, 45 minutes, like as if it was nothing. I know that you had a long day. I want to ask you some quick questions. You answer as quickly as possible. You don't have to explain, just to let people know who Lucia is, you know?
Okay.
Lucia, I'm going to ask you this question, but I'm pretty sure you answered it already. Who's your favorite AC Milan Femminile player?
I have to say the one I already mentioned. I've always loved Sabatino, and I also have an Italy jersey with her name on it.
Amazing.
I used it to watch the women's game at the World Cup, and yeah, she's my favorite player here in Italy.
Amazing. Who's your favorite AC Milan male player?
Male player.
Masculino.
Yeah, from the
I want to know one from the actual team and one in the past.
From the actual team, it's hard. It's you have to choose between Theo Hernandez, which I love, and Gigio Donnarumma, which is the best player we have in the team. From the past, I've always loved Paolo Maldini. I've always played with the number 3 on my jersey,
of course, yeah.
when it was possible for me, and I've always played like in defense because of him. I used to watch his videos before the games to pump me up.
Yeah, to pump you up.
Yeah. So, and I really like to see him on the team, not on the pitch, but on the team at the moment.
Excellent. What about again, Milan club, AC Milan Femminile? This year, if you could summarize, okay, we're going to let go of the pandemic and how they did not make the Champions League. We're going to leave that aside. Do you think the season was a success?
Yeah.
Or it was not? It was below what they were expecting to do.
I think it was a great season, even if it stopped before the time. But I think that the team went beyond any expectation, because the team started last year with like something like a brand new team. Many players left in the previous summer, so the players and the fans did not believe in the team, but they managed to do the best they could on the pitch. They won the first game against Roma, and they won the next one and the next one. So the fans were like, maybe they're doing something great. And also the team had a new manager which is Mr. Maurizio Ganz, who has been a great AC Milan players as well. So it's already known among the fans. So it didn't end up the way we wanted, but it was a great season.
Okay, you know what's coming now? AC Milan male team.
Okay.
Their season, success or failure?
I don't know. I actually don't know how to respond this, because it was I can say it was a big failure until
it was the roller coaster ride. It was the roller coaster ride.
But it's not bad not good for my health and for the health
of course.
The fans. It was a failure until the pandemic, until the stop of the Serie A. And then Pioli happened, and then Ibrahimovic happened, and everything related to that. And I don't know what
they salvaged a bit of the season, right? So for me at the beginning of the season, especially on Milan Weekly Podcast and everywhere that I spoke, with Maldini, Boban, and Gianpaolo coming on, I thought that they were going to take a step forward, right? And of course, obviously, I was completely wrong with that. And not only on the football level, I'm talking also management level. There was too much of a drama. There was too many things that went wrong for me, even though I love AC Milan, to say that it was any success. For me, unfortunately, the season is a failure. Yes, we're going to end on a high note. One last game against Cagliari, but unfortunately, a team like Milan cannot go through these soap operas or these telenovelas that we went through, right? We have a man who was coaching our team and responding to questions about someone who's going to take his place, to only that person not even coming to take his place.
Yeah,
that's terrible business on a part of AC Milan, and that's why for me it's a failure, right? So I cannot be more honest than that, and it's not because I love them. Trust me, I'm the most critical of AC Milan. I really, for me, it's a high level. I put them at a really high level, and anything underneath below, unfortunately, is not acceptable for me, right? So, a lot on the PR side this year with Milan, the male team was terrible. But you know what? I agree with you 100%. The female side was interesting to watch them. I get to see Sky every once in a while, and they show the highlights, and I'm really there for whatever I can watch, whatever we can read. I read about Milan Femminile. We even had Presidente interview one of the players. That player and Presidente together on the show. That was amazing, right? To have her sit in with him.
They are great girls. They are very easy, so I like them all.
Amazing. I'm going to ask you one last question, and I ask it to everybody.
Okay.
When Lucia finishes her day at Radio Rossonera and she goes home to her beautiful home and she sits down and she wants to make something to eat, she's going to make pasta tonight, okay?
Okay.
So Lucia is going to make pasta. You have 2 boxes.
Okay.
You have the choice of penne rigati or penne lisce. Which one do you choose?
It came all from Canada, the penne rigate thing. Yeah, I choose penne rigate.
Yeah. No penne lisce. No.
It doesn't stick to the pasta.
It doesn't stick to the sauce. It doesn't stick. The penne lisce is like you eat a goldfish, like the little fish, i piccoli pisciolini. Disgusting.
It was a great discussion here in Italy during the pandemic, because in the supermarkets nobody was buying the penne lisce. There were only boxes of penne lisce and nothing else. So everybody said, no one buys the penne lisce. We all like only penne rigate. Yeah.
Lucia, this is the time where we to tell everybody how they can follow you and your work.
There's my Instagram, which is, I believe, right there, as well as my
Twitter. Twitter and Instagram. If you guys follow her, guys and girls, follow her, Lucia, on Twitter. Inside her Twitter bio, there's the Instagram. That's where we're going to follow Lucia as well. She works for our fantastic cousins of Radio Rossonera, who give us the ability to have Lucia on. Lucia, I want to thank you very, very much for taking the time after a very busy day for you. We know why it was busy for you.
And sorry
And
for the issue, which is
you never have to say sorry for your English. You're trying. That's already something that a
I
lot
am,
of people will not even do, right? So that's like me coming and talk Italian. It's a lot of calabrese is going to come out. So it's not going to be, a lot of people are going to make fun of me. They're
I
going to
know
call me
why.
Mino
I know.
Raiola Jr.
Oh, that's great. So thank you, and thank to all the people who followed us. Thank you
Thank you, Lucia. Have a great day.
as well.
I'm going to end it now.
Bye.
Guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Lucia. Forza Milan, guys. Forza Milan, the male team. Forza Milan, the female team. Forza everything Milan. Ciao.